Hello, everybody. It's me again. Hopefully, you've had a chance to watch the PowerPoint or listen to the PowerPoint presentation, which gives an overview of rhetoric. Right now, in this short video, I want to do two things. I want to get you familiar with a document that's on Brightspace about identifying types of rhetoric, and then I want to give you some information on the specific audience for the two readings that are part of your first rhetorical analysis homework assignment that you're going to turn in on Wednesday. So those are the things that we're going to do first. Okay, so I should have expanded that, but it's okay. Here is the Confederate monument assignment material, and I'm going to scroll down to this document right here, and I'm going to open it up. I'm going to see if I can get that to be full screen, which I can. Perfect. So this document isn't very long, it's about a page, and what it does is it just tells you some things to look for when you're trying to find certain rhetorical strategies. So I already talked in the PowerPoint presentation about ethos. This is how the writer presents him or herself as somebody worth listening to. This can be established through tone, it can be established through credentials, it can be established in all kinds of ways, but here are some things that you might look for when you're looking at somebody's ethos. Are they speaking in a way that's appropriate to the moment? Are they treating their audience with respect? Are they talking about personal experience that might have some bearing on the topic at hand, either professional experience, direct experience, and things like that? Are they using sources that are valued by the audience that is being appealed to, or they're widely considered to be expert opinions? This is why when you do research, you look for material produced by experts if you yourself are not an expert. And ethos is also about responding to counterarguments in a respectful way, acknowledging that counterarguments exist, talking about your opponents or people who disagree with you in a respectful and fair way. So they're not the only, but those are some ways that you can look for ethos in the readings. Pathos is next. It's about feeling. It's often defined as emotion, but more accurately, you can think about it as engaging with the sympathies and the imagination of the audience. This doesn't always have to be completely over the top. There are some kinds of writing where there is almost no pathos. Some types of academic writing really frown upon it. But there are different ways to engage the emotions and imagination of your audience that aren't just about making them sad. And so one of those things is to tell individual stories that convey the human consequences of more abstract ideas. An example here is how you might, if you're talking about something like policy, you might include a story about how an individual is affected by a specific policy, housing policy or something like that. You can also use vivid and descriptive language that might excite your audience. Fear and shame and pity are one thing, but you can also get them hopeful and optimistic or determined, right? Pathos can also be about using language effectively in that way. You can appeal to your audience's sense of identity as belonging to a group. This can be used in very negative ways, but it can also be mobilized to band people together or make them feel part of something bigger than themselves. And you can kind of talk directly to your audience in an interesting way. I mean, think about how some of these things are being mobilized in talking about the virus right now. We're all in this together. Take care of your neighbors. Look out for people you don't know. Like, these are all uses of pathos that have some value in the current situation, but could also be too much and too fearful and too everything. Okay, and then finally, logos. This is the Greek, the way that this talks about logic, how reasons are presented, how positions are supported, how facts are established, and things like that. There are all different types of logos type elements you might identify. For example, arguments often, if they're good arguments, will make sure that terms are defined properly so that everybody's talking about the same thing. You can make analogies or comparisons or parallel cases. Sometimes that works incredibly well. Sometimes it's irresponsible. You can talk about cause and effect, appeals to consequences or causes. As we know from logical fallacies, there's a way to do this badly, but there's also ways to do it well, to really research. And again, think about all of the stuff that's happening right now. If we stay home this much, we'll reduce things by this much, computer modeling, comparisons to Italy, things like that. These are all part of a logos, the logos of an argument, supplying evidence for claims, historical context for specific issues, avoiding logical fallacies, or revealing logical fallacies in other people's arguments. These are just some examples of logos. That's everything that's on this handout. This is on Brightspace for you, but I just wanted to make sure you know what was in here. I think it's quite useful. So I wanted to just go over that very quickly with you. Finally, before I stop talking, I just want to clarify a couple of things. So this is your first homework assignment. I have fixed the dates. It is actually due on Wednesday, the 25th. I got it right, finally. In this, you will be looking for effective examples of logos, ethos, pathos, and logos in two different readings. These are those two readings right here. The first one is Mitch Landrieu's speech to the city of New Orleans. Let me tell you a few things about that. It's not the whole speech. It was too long. Let me scoot this over a touch. There I am. So you have excerpt 1, which is the early part, and then I took another part out that's a little bit later in the speech. It's not the whole speech. So I want to tell you a little bit about audience because it will help you do the homework, and remember, audience is key to rhetorical analysis. Mitch Landrieu was the Democratic mayor of New Orleans for 6 years, from 2004 to 2010. And he voted to remove the 4 Confederate monuments quietly in the middle of the night while other cities were having riots and people were just pulling them down by themselves and things like that. So he gives a speech about why he did it. He's not asking for permission. He's just telling people why he did it. But he also doesn't want to alienate voters, and he wants to avoid the kind of conflict that was happening in other cities all over the place. Let me show you this. And I have made a bit of a mistake. He was not the governor of New Orleans. That's not how that works. People should proofread. He was the mayor of New Orleans. So I just want to tell you a little bit about the city. The city of New Orleans is incredibly diverse in terms of class. There are some of the poorest people in the country and some of the richest people in the country. Tourists come from all over. Its racial makeup is wildly diverse. African Americans from way back. There's a big Filipino population there. There are lots of Asian Americans there, Creole culture, Native Americans. It's just wildly diverse in terms of its racial makeup. The political persuasion, and it's in many ways can be very conservative, but also not. I mean, it's just all over the place. Tons of different languages are spoken there. Tons of different cultures come together. And so he has to persuade a vast group of people with every possible value you can have. And he has to thus appeal to a broad audience without alienating voters, but also to minimize the possibility of a lot of conflict among the different parts of the city over this issue. So that's his audience, and that's his goal. And I think that will help you kind of have some ways to talk about his rhetorical strategies. So that's that. Let me drop that down. And then the other thing that I want to show you, because it's exciting, is the other statement that you're going to read, which was written about the same time, is the AHA statement on Confederate monuments. The AHA is the American Historical Association, as you can see right there. And let me go very quickly to their website. So this is a statement representing this professional organization made up mostly of academics. Academics, weirdly, right now have a reputation for being super lefty, but actually historians tend to be very kind of centrist and possibly slightly more conservative than other disciplines in the humanities. This is their website, and I'm just going to give you a quick about. Nonprofit organization, mostly made up of leadership for the discipline of studying history. They care about academic freedom, professional standards, scholarship, and teaching. So these are experts and professionals in history who represent historians as a profession. And they really advocate for academic practices in history. They're writing as academics to academics. And so their standards are going to be, or not their standards, their audience is a little different, mostly other academics, although they kind of want more people, leadership of different cities making these decisions to read the statement and ask them for help. But their audience is not broad in the same way that Mitch Landrieu is. They're talking to other academics and they're talking to city leadership in order to offer their services in assistance in making decisions about Confederate monuments. And so I just wanted you to have a sense of the different audiences and goals of these two pieces because it will help you do the homework. I'm going to go back to the Brightspace page. Very quickly, and then just open up this document right here. This is what you are doing by Wednesday. Oh my gosh, look, it says the 26th. Wednesday the 25th. Ah, what a piece of work I am. And so this is the homework. You will, as you read for each one of these, you will identify an example from each piece. You'll explain why it fits into the rhetorical category as it's described in the handout I've shown you in this presentation, and why that strategy would work on part of the audience. And so that's what you're doing with Landrieu's speech and the American Historical Association's statement. I apologize again for my inability to say Wednesday the 25th correctly anywhere. Okay, I'm going to stop now. I hope this was helpful. Please don't hesitate to ask me any questions.